The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with quiet anticipation as security analyst Zextal approached the central podium. Their crystalline exoskeleton caught the light from 1,000 distant stars visible through the transparent dome above, creating prismatic patterns that danced across the curved walls. Esteemed members of the council, Zextal began, their translator converting complex harmonic tones into the standard galactic frequency. Today we discuss the species designated Sol-3 Alpha, self-named humans. A holographic projection of Earth materialized above the chamber floor, slowly rotating to display the planet's blues and greens. The 200 assembled representatives from across the galaxy shifted in their environmental pods. Some leaked methane in amusement at the primitive-looking world, while others extended sensory appendages for a closer analysis. As you can see, Zextal continued, zooming the projection to highlight various human settlements. They've barely begun to colonize their own solar system. Their technology is remarkably inefficient, still relying on chemical propulsion and digital computing. The analyst's tone carried the distinct harmonic of dismissal. The projection shifted to display scenes of human conflict, wars, environmental destruction, political divisions. They spend significant resources fighting among themselves over arbitrary territorial boundaries. Their atmosphere shows dangerous levels of carbon dioxide accumulation, indicating poor environmental management. They've only managed to place a single primitive habitat on their moon and a handful of basic research stations on their neighboring planet. From the Arxian delegation's pod, Ambassador Kieran's bioluminescent patterns flickered with concern. The ancient species had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, and something about this assessment troubled them deeply. If I may interrupt, Kieran's translator hummed, their patterns pulsing urgent blues and greens. The council's attention shifted to the Arxian's pod, floating slightly above the others, a privilege of their species' seniority. Proceed, Ambassador. The council speaker's voice resonated through the chamber. I've studied the historical data on these humans. Kieran's appendages waved, bringing up new holographic displays. They achieved powered flight and space travel within the same century. They went from simple radio to quantum communication in mere generations. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented. Zextal's crystalline form vibrated with disagreement. With respect, Ambassador, their achievements are unremarkable. They haven't even developed basic gravitational manipulation. That's precisely my point, Kieran countered. Look at these images. The hologram shifted to show human art, from cave paintings to modern digital creations. They were painting on cave walls, yet now they send autonomous robots to explore their solar system. They wage devastating wars, then turn around and provide aid to their enemies. They're not primitive. They're dangerously unpredictable. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as various species debated among themselves. The hive mind of the Vex Thor transmitted waves of skepticism, while the silicon-based Quartzians vibrated in frequencies suggesting agreement with the Arxians' concerns. We've seen countless species at this stage of development, Zextal argued. Our standard containment protocols have never failed. We introduce ourselves as benevolent advisors, implement the necessary technological restrictions, and guide their development along acceptable paths. Kieran's bioluminescence flared red. And how many of those species went from atomic theory to practical nuclear fusion in less than 2 centuries? How many developed artificial intelligence despite still using internal combustion engines? These humans don't follow normal technological progression paths. They make intuitive leaps that defy traditional development models. The council speaker raised an appendage for silence. We will now vote on the threat assessment classification for species Sol-3 Alpha. Standard containment protocols require a negligible or minimal threat classification. As the votes streamed in through the neural networks, Kieran's patterns dimmed to a deep worried purple. The humans would be classified as a negligible threat, and standard protocols would be implemented. But as they watched the holographic Earth slowly rotate above the chamber, they couldn't shake the feeling that the council was making a catastrophic mistake. The Arctians had learned through bitter experience that the most dangerous species weren't those with the most advanced technology. They were the ones who could turn any technology into something unexpected. And these humans seemed to specialize in the unexpected. The Council's diplomatic vessel, the Eternal Wisdom, maintained its comet-like trajectory toward Earth, its advanced cloaking systems making it indistinguishable from the countless other celestial bodies that passed near the planet. Captain Venerk stood on the observation deck, their compound eyes studying the approaching blue world with careful detachment. Status report on the preliminary infiltration packages, they asked, multifaceted eyes never leaving the view. Science Officer Meltic consulted their neural interface. All 700 educational and technological restriction protocols have been successfully seeded through their primitive information network. We've masked them as software updates, gaming platforms, and social media applications. Time until full integration. Conservative estimate: 3 Earth months for complete. Meltic's report cut off as their neural interface suddenly flashed urgent warnings. Captain, we have an anomaly. In Mumbai, 16-year-old Priya Patel had been up for 36 hours straight, surviving on nothing but chai and sheer determination. Her laptop screen flickered with lines of code as she picked apart what everyone else thought was just another mobile game app. "Look at this packet structure," she messaged her friend Akiko in Tokyo. "It's not just a universal translator. The base algorithm, it's like it's designed to interface with any form of communication." Akiko's reply came instantly. "The gardening app I found has similar patterns. I used it on my grandmother's bonsai trees. You won't believe what happened." On the Eternal Wisdom, alarms began to sound. "Impossible," Meltic whispered, their exoskeleton pale with shock. "The restrictions are being modified. Humans are accessing root-level protocols that should be completely invisible to their technology." Captain Venerks finally turned from the viewport. "Explain." "Someone in Mumbai has extracted our universal translation matrices, and, sir, they're using it to build a global communication network that bypasses all our planned linguistic barriers. And in Tokyo," Meltic's voice trembled, "a human has discovered how to use our terraforming protocols to accelerate plant growth. They think they're playing games or using apps, but they're actually reverse engineering technologies we plan to keep locked for centuries." In her small apartment, Priya stared in amazement as her phone began translating not just every human language, but picking up patterns in bird songs and whale calls. She published her findings on an open-source platform, and developers worldwide were already building upon her work. Meanwhile, in Akiko's grandmother's garden, plants that normally took decades to mature were flourishing in days. She discovered that the game she'd been playing with soil composition and light levels was actually manipulating matter at a molecular level. "Sir," a junior officer interrupted, their appendages twitching nervously. "We're detecting unauthorized modifications to our protocols spreading across their global network. Humans are sharing their discoveries freely. They're treating our restrictions as puzzles to be solved." Captain Venerks's outer membrane darkened with concern. "How many of our systems have they accessed?" "That's the problem, sir. They haven't actually accessed our systems at all. They're just using the small fragments we planted as inspiration to build their own versions. They're not breaking our restrictions. They're simply building alternatives we never anticipated." In the following days, the crew of the Eternal Wisdom watched in mounting horror as their carefully placed restrictions sparked a renaissance of human innovation. A teenager in Lagos combined the translation algorithm with pattern recognition to communicate with dolphins. A high school science club in Seoul used modified terraforming principles to begin cleaning plastic from the ocean. "Send an emergency update to the Council," Captain Venerks ordered, their voice heavy with foreboding. The Arctian ambassador was right. These humans, they don't just adapt technology. They transform it. Every restriction we place on them becomes a foundation for something new. As the message was transmitted, Priya's open-source translation protocol reached its millionth download. In Tokyo, Akiko's grandmother's garden had become a pilgrimage site for botanists worldwide. And in the Council's distant chambers, the Arxian ambassador's bioluminescence pulsed with a pattern that roughly translated to, "I told you so." Emergency lighting bathed the Council chamber in a crimson glow as representatives materialized for the midnight session. The Arxian ambassador Kieran's bioluminescence pulsed rapidly, reflecting off the crystalline walls as reports from across the galaxy streamed into their neural network. The situation has escalated beyond all projected models. First Speaker Tilax announced, their voice modulator barely containing their agitation. "We begin with the Mars incident." The holographic display activated, showing the human mining colony on Mars. What should have been a simple resource extraction facility, hampered by Council-mandated technological restrictions, had become something else entirely. 3 days ago, Tilax continued, the humans modified their atmospheric processors. Our analysts believe they were simply attempting to improve their air filtration. The image shifted, showing a massive energy field encompassing the entire colony. They created a planetary shield generator, using technology meant to scrub carbon dioxide. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. From their pod, Zextol's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained frequency patterns indicating extreme distress. How? The atmospheric processors were deliberately designed to prevent any power output beyond basic air recycling. A new voice cut through the chamber. Professor Lin Chen of the Earth University Alliance, speaking via holographic projection. Her image stood calmly in the center of the Council chamber, a stark contrast to the agitated aliens surrounding her. "Distinguished Council members," she began, "my colleagues and I have been studying your quantum field theories. We found some interesting intersections with Earth's traditional understanding of particle physics. We're preparing to publish our findings across all major scientific journals." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Vexthor hive mind transmitted waves of panic, while the Quartzians began emergency vibration patterns. These were theories the Council had carefully restricted, meant to be revealed to humanity over centuries, not months. "You don't understand the dangers," Zextol warned. "These concepts require centuries of careful." "With respect," Professor Chen interrupted, "we've already successfully tested several applications. The Mars Shield is just the beginning. And in the spirit of open science, we're sharing all our findings with any species interested in learning." The projection shifted again, showing scenes from across the galaxy. A group of Centaurian researchers, traditionally considered a lesser species by the Council, working alongside human scientists to develop new fusion containment methods. Priya Patel, now heading a global tech consortium, teaching a group of young Proximans how to bypass their own species' technological restrictions. Most troubling, Tilax announced, their modulator now crackling with strain, is the spread of what they call open-source innovation. Humans aren't just learning, they're teaching. Their methods of technological development are spreading like a virus through the galaxy. Kieran's patterns shifted to a deep, knowing blue. They don't see technology as something to be hoarded or controlled. To them, knowledge is meant to be shared, improved upon, freely given. It's not just their innovations we fail to anticipate. It's their entire philosophy of progress. On the display, Akiko's revolutionary botanical techniques had spread beyond Earth. Dozens of species were now adapting her methods, combining them with their own biological understanding to create unprecedented forms of agricultural technology. The Council's carefully maintained technological hierarchy was unraveling. "We must contain this," Zextol insisted. "Quarantine Earth immediately. Cut off all communication with." "It's too late," Kieran interrupted, their patterns now pulsing with a rhythm that in Arxian culture indicated both amusement and resignation. "Look!" The final display showed an underground network of information exchange spreading across the galaxy. Species that had never communicated were sharing ideas, building upon each other's discoveries. At the heart of it all was a simple message, written in every known language. Knowledge belongs to everyone. The Council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. They hadn't just failed to contain humanity. They had inadvertently helped spread human ideas throughout the galaxy. Their restrictions hadn't imprisoned humanity. They had only inspired humans to build something entirely new. And in their drive to understand and share knowledge, humans were transforming the galaxy in ways the Council had never imagined possible. Live from Europa Colony 1. This is Marcus Chen with an emergency broadcast. For those just tuning in across the galaxy, we are currently under attack by what appears to be Council-sanctioned pirates. And folks, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Marcus's broadcast, picked up and automatically translated by Priya Patel's now ubiquitous communication protocol, reached billions of devices across thousands of worlds. His voice remained remarkably calm as plasma bolts lit up Europa's ice-covered sky. For our alien viewers just joining us, I should explain that what you're witnessing isn't just a defense. It's what we humans call a gaming tournament. He chuckled as another explosion illuminated the colony's shield. Our engineers have determined that the pirates' targeting systems operate on principles similar to Earth's classic video game, Space Invaders. In the colony's defense center, Dr. Sarah Wong reached for her vintage Nintendo controller, now wired into a quantum interface. Around her, dozens of colonists clutched similar controllers, their screens displaying the incoming pirate ships as if they were sprites in a retro arcade game. Red Squadron, focus on the corvettes, Sarah called out. Blue Squadron, maintain shield integrity. And someone get that kid Tommy in here. He holds the colony's high score in Asteroid Blaster. On the lead pirate vessel, Captain Gurkath watched in growing confusion as their ship's targeting computers began responding to unknown commands. What are they doing? These primitives shouldn't even be able to detect our systems, let alone. Sir, his weapons officer interrupted, mandibles clicking in distress. Our plasma cannons are being played with. Back in the colony, 12-year-old Tommy Chen, no relation to Marcus, had arrived, wearing his favorite space pajamas and clutching his custom-modded controller. This is just like level 9, he muttered, fingers flying across the buttons. Except the hitboxes are way bigger. Marcus continued his broadcast, his tone shifting to that of a sports commentator. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations, young Tommy Chen has just accessed the pirates' main weapons array. He's actually using their own plasma cannons to play a game of Pong with their shield generators. Across the galaxy, billions watched as humanity turned an attempted military strike into an impromptu entertainment event. Species that had never understood human recreation found themselves inexplicably engaged in what appeared to be both a defense action and a public performance. On the Council's emergency observation platform, Zextal's crystalline form had developed stress fractures from witnessing the display. They're not taking this seriously. We sent our most feared pirate fleet to test their defenses, and they're treating it as a game, Kiran finished, their bioluminescence flickering with what might have been amusement. And in doing so, they've demonstrated something far more dangerous than military prowess. The broadcast continued as the colony shields, reinforced by technology reverse-engineered from Council restrictions, easily absorbed the increasingly erratic pirate attacks. Sarah Wong's team had successfully turned the pirates' own targeting systems against them, using gaming controllers to redirect plasma bolts into elaborate patterns that spelled out Game Over against the backdrop of Europa's ice. And there you have it, folks, Marcus concluded as the pirate fleet retreated in disarray. Europa Colony 1 successfully defends itself using modified vintage Earth technology. Special thanks to our sponsors, human ingenuity and the Council's utterly predictable attempt at intimidation. The footage spread across the galaxy faster than the Council could contain it. Species that had lived in fear of Council-sanctioned pirates for millennia watched in amazement as humans defeated them with children's toys and public broadcasting. In her lab on Earth, Priya Patel received millions of messages from beings across the galaxy, all asking the same question. How could they learn to think like humans? The council chamber fell into chaos as representatives demanded emergency sessions. But it was too late. Humanity hadn't just survived the test. They'd turned it into a demonstration that inspired countless species to question everything they'd been taught about their place in the galaxy. And somewhere on Europa, Tommy Chen returned to his quarters, saved his high score, and went back to bed, unaware that he'd just helped change the course of galactic history. The marketplace on Station Nexus 7, once a closely monitored trading post at the galaxy's edge, had transformed. Where regulated council technology once dominated the stalls, now Earth culture flowed freely through unofficial channels. A Zentorian merchant's tentacles waved excitedly as she demonstrated an antique Earth device called a Rubik's Cube to a crowd of diverse species. Notice how it teaches spatial reasoning without any quantum interfaces, she explained, her translation provided by a modified version of Priya's universal protocol. Humans used these to train their young ones in problem-solving centuries before they reached space. Nearby, a Vexthor drone browsed through downloaded Earth music, its neural patterns synchronizing with something called jazz. The improvisational nature of the music had sparked a minor revolution in hive mind thinking patterns. In a hidden workshop deep within the station, Akiko's granddaughter Mai worked with a group of alien botanists, combining her grandmother's breakthrough techniques with various alien biochemistries. The key isn't just making things grow faster, she explained, handling a luminescent alien flower. It's understanding why they grow at all. The council's surveillance drones recorded everything, transmitting their findings to an increasingly agitated emergency session. It's not just technology anymore, First Speaker Tilax reported, their voice modulator crackling with stress. Human culture is spreading through the galaxy like a quantum cascade. Their art, their music, their games. Every piece carries dangerous ideas about innovation and individual thinking. On the display, a group of alien children gathered in what appeared to be a makeshift classroom. A human child, visiting the station with her merchant parents, drew with simple wax crayons. Around her, young beings of various species watched in fascination as she showed them how to create something new without any technological assistance. We've discovered something even more disturbing, a junior analyst reported. They're teaching other species a concept they call thinking outside the box. It's some kind of mental exercise focused on finding solutions that shouldn't exist. Kieran's patterns shifted to a deep, thoughtful purple. You still don't understand. Humans don't see boundaries the way we do. To them, every rule is just a suggestion, every limitation just a challenge. The evidence was undeniable. Across the galaxy, species began questioning centuries-old restrictions. A Proximan colony successfully modified their atmospheric processors using techniques learned from the Mars Shield incident. A group of young Quartzians formed a garage band, using crystalline resonance patterns to recreate Earth rock music. We must isolate Earth immediately, Zextal demanded. Cut off all contact before. They were interrupted by a simultaneous transmission from 50 different species representatives. The message was simple. Any attempt to isolate Earth would result in their immediate withdrawal from the Council. In her office on Earth, now serving as the hub of an interstellar knowledge exchange network, Priya reviewed the latest data. Her universal translator had evolved beyond simple communication. It now facilitated the exchange of ideas across species barriers that had seemed insurmountable. It's not about the technology, she explained to a gathering of alien students via holographic projection. It's about sharing what we know, learning from each other, and building something greater than ourselves. On Station Nexus 7, the marketplace had become more than just a trading post. It was a symbol of a new way of thinking. Species that had never collaborated now worked together openly, combining their knowledge in ways the Council had never intended. The final report of that day's Council session contained a phrase that sent shudders through the traditional power structures. Humanity isn't conquering the galaxy through force. They're transforming it through ideas. As the Council debated futile measures to contain the spread of human influence, a simple crayon drawing made its way through the station's corridors. It showed beings of different species holding hands around a planet, drawn by a child who didn't know such unity was supposed to be impossible. And in that simple artwork lay the Council's greatest fear. Humanity wasn't just sharing technology. They were sharing dreams. The Council's containment fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, 5,000 ships strong. Admiral Vexthor's flagship, the Immutable Law, led the array of the most advanced vessels in known space. Their mission was simple: isolate Earth and end the spreading chaos of human influence. They found the Sol System's defense fleet waiting for them, if you could call it a fleet. Admiral, his sensor officer reported, mandibles twitching in confusion. We're detecting. We're not sure what we're detecting. Through the flagship's quantum crystal viewport, the human ships defied classification. Some appeared to be partially phased out of normal space, utilizing technology that shouldn't have been possible. Others pulse with energy signatures that didn't match any known configuration. On the bridge of the Earth ship Impossible Dream, Captain Sarah Wong, formerly of Europa Colony's Gaming Defense Force, settled into her command chair. Around her, crew members manned stations that looked more like a collection of antique Earth technology than a starship's bridge. "All ships, check in," she commanded, her words carried through Praya's latest communication protocol. Coffee drive status. "Ma'am, the organic quantum computers are fully caffeinated and running at 457% normal efficiency," her engineer reported, monitoring a system that used modified versions of Akiko's botanical breakthroughs to turn Earth's favorite beverage into computing substrate. "The beans from Kenya are performing exceptionally well today. The first shots from the Council fleet should have vaporized the human vessels. Instead, the energy weapons passed through space that bent in ways that violated fundamental laws of physics. Human ships seemed to be simultaneously where they were and weren't, protected by shields that incorporated principles from ancient Earth video games. "Impossible," Admiral Vexthor hissed as his fleet's sophisticated targeting systems were confused by defense patterns based on old Earth football plays. Their technology is a patchwork of contradictions. It shouldn't function at all. On Station Nexus 7, now a hub of human-inspired innovation, Mai coordinated with a network of alien scientists. Her grandmother Akiko's plants had evolved into living computer systems that interfaced seamlessly with modified Council tech. The station's observers transmitted the battle across the galaxy, commented on by Marcus Chen in his now famous style. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations," Marcus's voice rang out. "What you're witnessing is humanity's response to the Council's containment fleet. And yes, that is actually a ship using modified karaoke software to disrupt enemy targeting systems through the power of Earth pop music." The Council fleet's perfect formation began to break as their standardized tactics failed against human unpredictability. Ships powered by impossible combinations of technology danced through their lines. Weapons guided by neural networks trained on Earth strategy games predicted and countered their every move. But the real surprise came when the human fleet didn't press their advantage. "This is Captain Sarah Wong to all Council vessels," her transmission cut through the chaos. "Your ship's life support systems are now running on our coffee-based computers. We could shut them down. Instead, we're offering sanctuary to any crew who wishes to learn our methods of innovation. No restrictions, no hierarchies, just free exchange of ideas." In the Council chamber, watching the battle unfold, Huran's patterns shifted to a color that hadn't been seen in millennia, the shade of profound change. "They're not trying to win the traditional way," they observed. "They're winning by making victory itself irrelevant." Ship by ship, Council crews began accepting the human offer. The mighty containment fleet dissolved not through destruction, but through choice. Even Admiral Vexthor found himself stunned as his own crew voted to accept the humans' proposal. As the battle ended without a single life lost, Marcus Chen's broadcast carried one final message across the galaxy. In other news, Earth's latest cultural export, heavy metal, has just been adapted for crystalline life forms. The first Quartzian human rock concert will be held on Station Nexus 7 next week. Tickets are free, but bring your own quantum harmonizer. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, once a symbol of unchanging order, now pulsed with revolutionary energy. The neat rings of environmental pods had dissolved into a more chaotic arrangement as species freely mingled. In one corner, a group of Quartzian youth played Earth blues music through their crystalline forms, their vibrations carrying both protest and hope. First speaker Tulax's voice modulator struggled to be heard over the growing tumult. "Order. We demand order in thee." Why? The simple question came from an unexpected source, a junior Vexthor drone, its neural patterns showing unusual independence from its hive. Humans have shown us that chaos can breed creativity. Their democracy thrives on open debate. The word democracy rippled through the chamber like a quantum wave collapse. Species that had accepted their designated positions for millennia were now asking questions that shook the foundations of galactic society. Priya Patel stood at the chamber's center, her holographic form projected from Earth. She'd been invited to explain human governance, but what she shared was something more fundamental. The Internet, she began, was originally just a way to share information between computers. But it became something more, a tool for sharing ideas, culture, dreams. We're not here to replace your council. We're here to connect your worlds. As she spoke, her latest project went live across the galaxy. The Interstellar network, built on the foundation of her universal translator, linked worlds and species in ways the Council had always forbidden. Knowledge flowed freely, unrestricted by hierarchical controls. In the shadowed upper tiers of the chamber, Kiran watched as centuries of carefully maintained secrets became public discourse. The Council's restricted technologies, their controlled development paths, their carefully curated histories, all were now topics of open discussion across a million worlds. "You don't understand what you're unleashing," Zextol warned, their crystalline form showing deep stress fractures. "Some species aren't ready for advancement. The chaos will." "Ready?" The interruption came from Mai, present via hologram from Station Nexus 7. Her grandmother Akiko's garden had evolved into a biological computing center where species freely shared biotechnology knowledge. Who decides who's ready? My grandmother was just trying to grow better bonsai trees when she revolutionized terraforming. Innovation doesn't wait for permission. The chamber's displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. Centaurian philosophers debated Earth concepts with Proximan scientists. Young Vexthor drones learned individual thinking, while teaching hive mind efficiency to human students. Species that had been deemed primitive were contributing unique perspectives to galactic science. In orbit above Earth, the former Council containment fleet, now transformed into a learning flotilla, hosted crews from 100 worlds. Captain Sarah Wong's coffee-powered computers had sparked a revolution in organic computing, while her gaming-inspired defense systems had evolved into new forms of spatial mathematics. The Council exists to maintain order, Tulax insisted, but their voice modulator carried less conviction now. "No," Kiran countered, their patterns shifting to decisive clarity. "The Council existed to control, but humans have shown us a different path. They advance by sharing, not hoarding. They grow stronger by helping others grow stronger." The final blow to the old order came not from speeches or technology, but from a simple transmission. Marcus Chen, broadcasting from what had once been a restricted educational facility, showed children from 50 different species working together to solve problems the Council had deemed too advanced for them. This is what humanity truly brought to the galaxy, his voice carried across the quantum channels Priya had opened. Not just their technology or their culture, but their fundamental belief that knowledge belongs to everyone. As the Council's authority crumbled, not through violence, but through the simple act of sharing information, Kiran's bioluminescence displayed a pattern of profound understanding. The Arctians had warned the Council about humanity's threat, but even they hadn't fully grasped the nature of that threat. Humans hadn't needed to conquer the galaxy. They had simply shown it how to be free. One standard galactic year after the Council's transformation, the chamber that once housed the galaxy's most rigid hierarchy now buzzed with a different energy. Environmental pods no longer arranged themselves by status. Instead, they shifted constantly as representatives moved to engage in open dialogue. Ambassador Kiraran, their bioluminescent patterns radiating serene satisfaction, approached the central podium to present the Archean's final assessment of humanity to the reformed Galactic Assembly. "We warned the old council about humanity's potential," they began, their patterns creating dancing lights across the chamber. "We were right, but also profoundly wrong. We saw them as a threat when they were actually a catalyst." The assembled representatives, now including humans and formerly restricted species, watched as holographic displays showed the galaxy's transformation. Station Nexus 7, once a closely monitored trading post, had become the galaxy's premier innovation hub. In May's expanded botanical computing center, her grandmother Akiko's legacy lived on as species freely shared their biological and technological knowledge. The station's gardens now produced hybrid plants that served as both food sources and quantum processors. "Humans didn't overpower us with superior technology," Kiraran continued. "They transformed us by questioning our basic assumptions about progress itself." The display shifted to Earth's orbital space, where the former containment fleet had evolved into the Interstellar University. Captain Sarah Wong, now Dean of Unconventional Physics, supervised classes where students used video game principles to discover new laws of quantum mechanics. Her coffee-powered computers had spawned an entire field of organic computing, with each species adding their own biological innovations to the growing field. Priya Patel's universal translator had evolved beyond mere communication. The interstellar network she built now connected countless worlds in real time, allowing instant sharing of ideas across the galaxy. But more importantly, it carried the human concept that would forever change galactic society: open-source development. The old council feared chaos, Kiraran observed, their patterns shifting to thoughtful blues. "Humans showed us that creativity thrives in the space between order and disorder." In the chamber's public gallery, a group of alien children sat with their human teacher, using simple crayons to draw their dreams of the future. Next to them, a quartzian crystal formation resonated with a fusion of earth jazz and crystalline harmonics, while a young Vexthor drone practiced individual thinking exercises. Marcus Chen, whose broadcasts had helped spark the revolution, now hosted the galaxy's most popular educational program, Humans Explain the Weird Stuff. Today's episode featured a panel of species discussing how Earth's ancient game of chess had led to breakthroughs in strategic quantum computing. But humanity's greatest gift wasn't their technology, their culture, or even their methods of innovation. Kiraran continued. It was something far simpler and more profound. The idea that progress belongs to everyone. The chamber's final display showed the new charter of the reformed Galactic Assembly, its first article written in every known language. All species advance together, or none advance at all. As Kiraran concluded their presentation, they shared one final observation. The old council's warning about humanity was correct, but for the wrong reasons. They weren't dangerous because they could fight us. They were transformative because they could teach us. The assembled representatives approved the assessment with a chorus of agreement expressed in 100 different ways. Crystalline chimes, neural pulses, bioluminescent flashes, and simple human applause, all translated perfectly through Priya's protocols. Outside the chamber, in a small garden maintained using Akiko's methods, a human child and a young Archean sat together, sharing crayons and dreams. The human taught the Archean to draw, while the Archean taught the human to see bioluminescent patterns. Neither of them knew they were doing something that would have been forbidden a year ago. And that, perhaps, was humanity's most profound victory. They had made the impossible seem natural, turned enemies into teachers, and shown the galaxy that the best way to protect knowledge was to share it freely. The Council had feared humanity would destroy their order. Instead, humanity had helped the galaxy build something better.